Good evening, everyone, on the MYBC Consulting Facebook page. It is time for another edition of the MYBC Virtual Bookstore Author Series. And it's I think I've had a couple of weeks off, a little bit of a break to recoup, read some books, and get back at it. And I am extremely intrigued is the word that I want to use for tonight's two authors. More intrigued than excited or thrilled, because the topic is fascinating. It's just a topic that was probably, let's find out, first of all, about the authors, and we can find out about their book. So Pam, introduce yourself, please, and tell everybody where are you on this big blue marble?
Hi, my name is Pam Dunwald, and I'm born and raised in Chicago, gravitated to just over the state line in Wisconsin, where I met Linda, and we've worked together in nursing for over 30 years. So,
Perfect. So Linda, introduce yourself as well.
My name is Linda Kritikos, and I am also a registered nurse, as Pam is. We've worked together for over 30 years. I am originally from Chicago also. Pam and I didn't grow up together, but I moved to Wisconsin probably about 20 some years ago. And we met when I took a position where we both, where she was working, and we've worked on and off together for over 30 years and have maintained a very strong working relationship and friendship. So, I mean, that's it. So
that in itself, that's beautiful to have a friendship. We're going to call it a workship as well. That you guys would just hang tight in what you stand for. Love to hear, Pam, a little bit, and both of you. We'll start with Pam first. What has your nursing career looked like over the 30 years?
well, done a lot of things. Acute care, or med surg as it used to be called. Spent a lot of time in home health, was where I met Linda. Emergency room nursing I've done, and then home health, as I mentioned before, but with hospice. So
okay,
that's been my primary focus.
And
Linda, what does your nursing career look like?
Well, it took some of a deviated course, but I started out as what I call an adrenaline junkie. I worked in the neonatal ICU for many years, and I loved it. And I worked in the neonatal unit as a nurse because I had lost my own child from SIDS when he was 3 months old, and he was born with a birth defect. So that was my whole, passion to become a nurse, because I wanted to work in that environment. And I worked in that environment for many years, and then traveled or moved to Wisconsin and realized I couldn't work where I was and travel. So then I started out in home health and absolutely loved it, because it was, to me, the way I felt nursing should be, what I was taught in school about the holistic person and being grounded and getting to know them as people. Because when you work with them in hospitals or other settings, a lot of times they're in and out so quickly, you really don't get to know them. You get to know their disease, but you don't really get to know them as a person and how they live and what their needs are. So I worked for a long time in home health and worked as a field nurse, then an educator, then went into management and then high level leadership, and then started working at, dealing with acquisitions and dealing with quality and getting, more education myself. So I ended up more on the administrative end, at the high executive end of home health and hospice. I opened up a hospice here for an agency, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It was great. I started it from the ground up with their support, because they were a company from another area of the country. And I enjoyed every minute of it and felt that I left my thumbprint on it and left a mark that could be carried on. And I think that's where I got my hospice grounding, was that, because I was also in the field Because
Mhm.
when you do something like that, you're also the cook, chief cook and bottle washer. So you're out in the field, you're in the office, you're everywhere, and you're doing everything. And I really became very grounded with hospice and learning it very well. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it immensely. But I think that whole focus of being in the community and community health and being part of the community, I think that's why Pam and I decided to write this book, because it was something that we felt was very much needed in, for people who were at that point in their life and needed to make a decision, because there's so many misconceptions
Mhm.
about hospice.
There's some good things that I want. It's a good interview. So if you've watched any of my other MYBC or MYBC virtual bookstores, I like to unpack. Like, as you just fed me a great bunch of information, there's some great stuff I
Mhm.
want to unpack. And the first of all that I want to throw down to Pam is, in the healing process of a patient, when I hear home health services, in your medical systems like ours, people go to the hospital, they have their surgeries, they want to get them out of the hospital as quick as possible, get them back home. And in that healing process that happens at home with the support system of people like you and the family, why do you think that this service has come to be? Because it leads to what we're going to talk about in your book. So why do you feel that this type of service has happened? Because when I was a kid, well, say 30, 40 years ago, when I went to the hospital, like for a tonsillectomy, they kept me in the hospital for 5 days, kind of thing. So why do you think it's switched to bringing it back to home for healing?
Well, I think that's a great question. And I'll look at it from two different perspectives. First of all, is, I personally, a lot of people look at their home as their sanctuary. That's where they're most comfortable. They're around family. They sleep better. They're in their own bed. They have their own routines. They're not being woke up every 2 hours to 4 hours for vital signs or for the next treatment. So most people are more relaxed, less stressful, and they heal better at home. So I think home health care allows you to bring the necessary treatments that they need, whether it's wound care or IV antibiotics or just a cardiorespiratory assessment, and you bring it to them where they're most comfortable, and I think that they heal better. The second thing is, I will look at, since I live in a very rural Amish community, I look at their culture, and I was very fortunate to be able to have some Amish hospice patients, and they're so community minded, where they wouldn't even think about a family member or loved one going to a nursing home or leaving the home or going to assisted living. I mean, they are very community based, where they take care of their own, and they actually will assign people within their community to go to the home to care for people that may need, have needs. And that's, decided by the community. So I just think that people realize that people do better at home, and we're best serving them by finding ways to bring them the services versus, having them. And when they're in the hospital, you're exposed to more germs. You're exposed to a lot of other things. So that's kind of my short story about that.
That's excellent. Thank you so much. And that leads us to this incredible book. And thank you so much for sending me a copy. Pam, I think I met you on an Alignable meet and greet. I think
Yes, ma'am.
where we met. I love meeting people, and often say to the four corners of this round world, thank goodness for Zoom and bringing people together. And this is fascinating. The title of your book, Pam, is
Cracking the Hospice Code. Your nurse advocates debunk the top 10 misconceptions of hospice.
So now I'm going to throw it up to Linda and say, why this book? Like, why sit down, the two of you? Because it's co-authored by both of you with your credentials at the end there, registered nurses. So why write this book? And subsequently to that, I'd love to get into, will it serve the world, or is it just a United States kind of book? Because I'm from Canada. Okay, so Linda, over to you. Why write this book?
Pam and I have both been in healthcare for a long time. Between the two of us, we have about 80 years of experience. So that should tell you kind of how old we are. But we have quite a bit of diverse skill set experience. Pam more in the rural area of where she's lived in, and myself more in the urban areas of where I live. And our skill sets are complementary to each other. So we both, though, were involved in hospice care, and we both were in the field for hospice care. And then I was also, as I said, opened up a hospice and worked very hard to build this hospice and special programs within the hospice. But what both of us found in talking with each other just on the phone, when we were like talking, just, you know, oh, let's catch up type of things, we both decided, or we both saw that there were common threads that we were seeing both from her world and from my world about hospice and the misconceptions and about the need and the feelings that people had about hospice, who really could benefit from the actual quality of life that hospice can provide. But it stops them because there's so much misunderstanding about them. And Pam and I were talking that sometimes it takes us so long to get someone to understand how relevant and how important this service is, that by the time they actually get the service, they don't reap the full benefit of the service because they're so close to death that they don't really get everything that hospice can offer. It's more of a end stage kind of very quick terminal kind of, they're there one day, they're gone the next. When hospice is about changing that whole focus of care from an aggressive type of care to a more palliative comfort level of care. We're not stopping care, we're just changing the focus. So you're not going to get all that aggressive treatment. You've decided that there's nothing more we can do. Medical management is maxed out. So why not have the comfort that you need to live these last days in a high quality, high comfort level environment by having hospice in your home to help care for you? So we decided to write the book.
So I'm going to throw it down to you, Pam, and go, why this title? Like, why this title? Because
I mean, people look at hospice. I mean, cracking the hospice code to me is breaking it down, you know, looking at what hospice really is. So it's this mysterious thing that people are afraid of, and they don't want to even, some people don't even like to hear the word, because to them that word just means death, and it just means so much more. So in cracking the hospice code, we wanted to use that to show people that you got to dig deeper. There's so much more to hospice and the care that you can get. And then that led to the other part about debunking the misconceptions, but just trying to get people to open up their minds enough to dig a little deeper into what hospice really is.
So what I love to do is get the authors to read the back of the book. I have two of you on here, and I would love, I hope you both have a copy of your own book in front of you there.
Yes,
if
ma'am.
not, woohoo! Linda's going to get hers. So I'm going to get Linda, because to me, you know, in life, you can't judge a book by its cover. We gotta turn around things in life and read the back of the book. So Linda, I will get you to read up to the together word on the back of the book, and then I'll get Pam to finish it from together onwards, please.
Okay. If you've ever wondered what hospice is really all about, then this book is written for you. Your questions and greatest concerns get answered. Linda started Advocate LLC to bring to those in the common maze of our healthcare system. When you or a loved one's health finds you not knowing what decisions you need to be made or what actions need to be taken, we can help. We won't make your decisions for you, but we will make sure you understand your options. Together we can help. Oh, go ahead.
That's okay. Together, we can help you make a well-informed healthcare decision. Maybe you are an adult child of an aging parent or an elderly spouse that finds yourself in unfamiliar territory. How do we manage medications? Or I feel so guilty because I should be spending more time with my parents. I have my own family to care for and I'm running out of time. I find myself needing to pay my parents' bills, run errands, do the grocery shopping, and I'm at my wit's end. I can't manage caring for my spouse by myself any longer. And so we hear you and we are here to help. For our companion checklist to help you know when your loved one may need help at home, you can visit our website or email us.
What I love that I read in this back in nice and big and blue, and that together we help you make a well-informed healthcare decision. It's very rare that I hear that word healthcare connected to hospice. It's like it's okay, healthcare is over here now and hospice is over here, and the integration of the two sounds fantastic. So let's get into, you decided, okay Pam, hey Linda, we're going to write this book. What did it look like for two people in two different locations, kind of where you live, to get this done? And how long did it take you to write? We'll go to Linda first, please.
Basically, Pam and I both live in Wisconsin, and I live about 3.5 hours away from here. So, but I spend a lot of time going up north. So one weekend we were together and sharing some, coffee and wine, and decided that this is what we wanted to do. So we decided we were going to debunk these misconceptions, because we felt that this was such an important endeavor that we were doing and we wanted to help people. So we decided we're going to do this. So we sat down with pen and paper, literally pen and paper, and actually started putting, like, brainstorming ideas. Just what do we want this book to look like? We don't want it to be a textbook. There's too many textbooks out there about hospice. This is not what we want. We want it to hit the consumer, the person it affects the most, the patient themselves and their family, because they're the ones that have the misconception. We really wanted to make sure that they understood that how important this service was. So we wanted to make sure that every idea we put down was focused on the client or the patient and their family. So we just did a lot of brainstorming, and then we picked out a few of the ideas and then started developing an outline. And then we start from the outline, we said, okay, what chapters are you going to look at? What chapters do I want to look at? Because we wanted to make sure that we were covering all of our diverse experiences.
Right.
We also knew that we had to make sure that, that it had to be about the stories. It had to be about the actual experiences of hospice, because then people could relate to that. To sit there and do a textbook, no one was going to relate to it. So we felt, okay, we need to make sure that we contact appropriate people. We get all of this, the logistics taken care of. And then we started just sitting there thinking, separately, because we had, at our homes, we divided up our chapters. And then we started thinking about what hospice stories really meant a lot to me. What do I really remember? And we started taking those stories and putting them to pen. I mean, we started writing the stories of the patients that we cared for. And then what we did is we took some of the regulatory and the eligibility requirements and the standards and kind of added that in so people understood. So if the story was about eligibility or certain components, we would add certain informational, regulatory, logistical standards to it, so they understood what that language was about or what they would hear about it. But it was really all about the stories. And actually, when I started writing some of those stories brought back a lot of memories and made me cry on a lot of them, because they still are so touching. Because Pam and I both agree to this. You've only got one chance to do it right in hospice. You can't do it. There's no do-overs. So you need to do it right from the get-go and get it done right, and make sure that that family knows that they've made the right decision, because you want them to utilize hospice again for another family member. And the stories, when I read a couple of the stories to my dad, he was extremely touched and he was very saddened by a few of them. And my mom was like, oh, this is too sad. I can't read anymore. I can't hear anymore. It's too sad. It's not sad. We wanted to make sure that people understood this book was about living, but living with a quality of life, not necessarily a quantity of life, because your disease process has already determined, along with God, what your quantity of life is going to be. So why not live it the best you can with the highest level of quality that you can, with people around you that love you and cherish you, and that you can say goodbye with respect and dignity and true closure.
So now down to you, Pam, is first meeting, brainstorm, jot ideas down, divvy up the chapters, pull it all together to publish. How long did that take you?
Oh gosh.
Oh, I think
Oh gosh.
from start to finish, I believe it was about a year.
Okay.
Some of the logistics that we needed to do, which took some time, is that as Linda said, we shared a lot of real stories from patients we had taken care of. So we had to get permission to be able to use those stories. So we had to get.
So is this in first, like, real name stories?
Most of them are, yes.
Wow. That's beautiful.
So I would say probably 80% of the stories are real people names, and we were able to get permission to use them. So we did consents to allow us to use those stories. We did decide to self-publish through Amazon.
Okay.
I think I think some of the challenges were is with Linda and I both working from different locations. We were doing Word documents, and then some we put into Google Docs, and those mixture of documents does not go well when you try and self-publish in Amazon. So a Google Doc is the best way to go and to format and everything, rather than to try and mix, because Word does not, transfer to many things very easily. So I think that the biggest challenge of that, I think a lot of it was the proofreading. And for us being first time book writers, we forgot to put pages numbers on the So
we did.
Our first release of the book didn't even have page numbers.
Oh my goodness.
Some people didn't even notice, but we noticed, and it was like, holy cow, how did we, because we have Mary Draycamp, who's a dear friend of ours, was in marketing with us. She did a chapter and was helping us proofread and go through it. And all three of us, none of us caught the fact that we didn't put page numbers on there.
I would take that you were living in the present of these stories and numbers, because you both are working in a field that numbers are not quantifiable. Like you're not living in counting the number of days that person is going to live. You're living in the day, in the present of that person still being here. I'm giving you an out, Pam and Linda, for missing that particular part.
Thank you for your grace.
Yeah. I mean, just even the formatting of the book was difficult, trying to get the pages, because we had pages that ran into new chapters and we wanted to make sure they were separated. And then so some of them ended up like on the middle of the page because of the way Amazon wants things in a very specific format. And as new book writers, we didn't know. We were learning as we were going. And I give Pam a lot of credit because she took a lot of that on, because I'm like, hey, all right.
I think the hardest part to what we did, the only piece of the book that we hired out was actually, she was a graphic designer from Canada who we hired. I mean, we did the design cover ourselves in Canva. Gorgeous. So we came up with that ourselves, but to format it, so that it would be published correctly in Amazon, we needed someone who knew the measurements and how to put that into the Amazon system. So we did hire someone to format the cover of the book and get that on Amazon, so that because we knew if it printed, we wanted, because the spine had to be the right length and that had, those measurements had to be put in. So that part we decided that we didn't want to mess with. So we did hire that out, but it was very, very reasonable.
So I'm going to, what I'd love to do now is, I know you both have a copy of your book in front of you, is I invite you to take one of your chapters that is, say, a little near and dear to your heart and read a couple of paragraphs.
I know mine.
So Pam, because you know yours, you can go first.
Okay, just have to get the proper chapter here, but I know.
And while you're looking for your chapter, I'll get you to answer the question that I posed a little earlier. Book that the whole world can use? Meaning someone in Canada, someone in the UK, someone in the United States that is.
I think the stories are
to
transferable.
understand hospice.
I
Okay,
think the stories are transferable, but there is information that's really related to our healthcare system in regards to Medicare and insurances and
okay,
Medicaid, things of that nature, which probably wouldn't be transferable in your healthcare system. But I think the stories are
okay,
definitely transferable because everybody has stories like that.
okay. So Pam, you found your chapter?
I have mine.
Okay,
mine.
go
Then we'll
ahead,
go-
Linda, you go. I'm looking for mine, so.
Okay. Chapter 5. I should have, I could have, I would have. Dealing with regrets. How many times have we thought that, said that? As human beings, we have an innate tendency to reflect on certain decisions or choices we have made in our past, asking ourselves, what if? What if we could have made a different decision? How would that change things? Or would it have any effect at all? Some of those decisions leave an imprint on us and can either have a positive or negative effect on future decisions. With hospice, you only have one chance to do it right. AK had her first stroke when she was 69. She had her second stroke at 79. It was her second stroke that caused her death. This story is about the last 7 days of her life after her second stroke, the decisions that needed to be made, and the need to promote a quality of life.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Pam, have you found your chapter?
I thought I would recognize the chapter, but I didn't. But to preface it, it was a patient of mine who had, oh, here, I found it. Okay.
Yay!
Yes, I found it. This for me is the biggest barrier we face as hospice nurses. Yes, a physician must certify that you have a condition, illness, or disease that if you passed away in 6 months or less, it would not be unexpected. With that being said, cancer is not the only diagnosis that qualifies for hospice. We will address this later. The biggest issue that I see, in my opinion, is that patients and families wait too long to explore the option of enrolling in hospice. So this is Kathy's story. Kathy did not have cancer, but she had terminal illness of chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or COPD. Kathy lived in the rural Midwest, and her only daughter lived in the state of Washington. Kathy had a sister, Jean, in Florida. Kathy's only wish was that she could see her only living daughter one more time before she passed. Kathy had a hard life. She lost a daughter previously and had her grown grandson living with her. She was not an easy to warm up to, and she didn't trust anyone. I was not going to let that stop me. Through the cursing and the F-bombs she dropped, we grew closer each day. She learned that she had an ally, someone that she could trust and felt had her best interest at heart. So what I want to do is just read the last chapter in closing. To kind of sum this up before this, her wish was to go to Washington, and she wanted to go by train. So she was with us for about a year. And so we were able to get her get a ticket for the train for her. able to get her oxygen. She had a personal friend go with her as a travel buddy. We made arrangements at the hotel in Washington to have an oxygen concentrator ready for her. So we did that. And then she wanted to see her daughter one more time. So then the last paragraph, the trip went well, but Kathy returned home exhausted as expected, but fulfilled. I will never forget that day after she had returned home. I went to see her and she was in her bedroom looking exhausted. She looked at me with her eyes that said, I quit. I'm done fighting. Kathy then spoke and said, it's time to go to the hospice house. Do you think they have a bed? This surprised me because she always said we would have to take her out of there kicking and screaming because she was not going to leave her house. Her best friend had agreed to stay with her if needed when she could no longer care for herself. I knew at that moment Kathy was ready to die. She completed her mission and had nothing left to fight for, and she was tired. We got her to the hospice house within an hour or so, and later that day she became unresponsive and passed away.
Wow. Well, just absolutely beautiful. So I'd love to wrap this up with the question of Linda. Name 2 people that you think need to have this book gifted to them.
2 people?
Yeah.
Oh God, I can't even.
Or who, like what profession?
I think every physician out there practicing medicine in internal medicine or any specialty should read this. I think medical students need to have this book. Nursing students need to have this book because they don't really get exposed to it. And there's a lot of nurses that I've worked with that they get out in the field and they've never ever experienced death and have no idea, because the majority of your hospice nurses are older, more mature, experienced nurses. So I think nursing students, medical students, physicians, and I think libraries. I just think libraries and book clubs need to have it.
Okay, Pam, out in the community, name a couple of people or a couple of organizations that you think should have this book.
Well, I think a lot of churches have libraries and have lending libraries within their churches. I think that's a great place to be able to have access to this book. Oftentimes when people are thinking about hospice, they have spiritual questions as well. So I think that ties together very well. I agree with Linda, libraries and nursing schools, as Linda said, because one of the things that we found is nursing students, they've just gone through nursing school and they're to make people better. So those young nurses often have a hard time with stopping treatment or, aggressive treatment. They feel like they're not helping, the patient and they haven't, matured in their career enough to know that, this is about the circle of life. And so, and we've gifted a book to the National Hospice Association. So we've done that. So, and hopefully, other organizations as hospice, programs to be able to share and distribute it, be able to lend that out to potential patients or people that are thinking about hospice.
Having heard your story, I often kind of chime in on who I think this book should be gifted to or be available. Number 1, every single hospice society, hospice home, 100% in North America, because within the help with the book being there, then the person in the hospice organization can apply the benefits that are available through them. I'd also like to say that this book should be with social workers. If you are going to be studying social work, that this is part of the holistic care of a human being, and for our humans that are out there, is that to understand what, say, a family, if you're a social worker going through a family help, and it could be because over here you don't realize that they've got a dying parent. So you'll get some proper, I'm sure, terminology and kindness and love and compassion through the stories of others. So those are two people that I think this book should kind of be gifted out to the world. So I encourage you to grab a copy. So with that being said, last words of wisdom, ladies, about number one, being a nurse and picking up pen to paper to write a book, because you guys are my first medical professionals that have decided to jump into the authorship world, about taking that leap of faith to write the book. So Linda, last parting words for you as a co-author of
I think this, to me, it actually filled my heart. It filled my heart because I felt this was something that was important because of the many years I've been a nurse and what I've seen and how I have worked within hospice and how the misconceptions can stop people from getting the quality of care that they so much deserve at the end of life. And I have helped place, family members in hospice, and, hope when my time comes, hopefully not for a long time, I would hope somebody would help make that great decision for me if I can't make it for myself, because it truly is a benefit.
And Pam, your last words about writing this book with Linda.
I think the writing part went quickly because it was just everything that we put in the book was already just overflowing in us with our experience. And it kind of would hurt my feelings sometimes when people would look at me as a hospice nurse and just that I represented death, or that you don't want to do hospice because, oh, you have to have one foot in the grave. We wanted the book to, hopefully, if they won't listen to those of us, with hospice experience, that they may pick up a book and read some of the stories and see how beautiful they are and what we can do. And there's funny stories in the book. I mean, it's not all sad. I mean, there's stages that people go through that funny things can happen. And so just wanting to pour out into the world all the good that hospice can offer, and just try and maybe just a little bit, stop that stigma, of what hospice is.
That's real life, people. Phone calls still happen.
I thought I turned that off. So, but I think that that was writing the book was easy because I think we had everything in us that we wanted to say, and we wanted to share that with the world. So
thank you so much. And I'm going to share it with the audience. I meant to cover this before I go, is I truly appreciate the font. Before we got on, I was saying that I appreciate the font. It's very easy to read. It is in a font that is not like New Times Roman or like a heavy duty novel. It's a very approachable. It's almost like you took pen to paper, kind of in longhand. So it's a beautiful, well spaced out book. Very easy to read, easy on the eyes, and flow, nice spacing. So well done, ladies. Well done. So
thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to get you to stay on once I stop the video, because I have to take our USSI, because I love to take an USSI for a screen, or take a screenshot. So I end each one of these MYBC Virtual Bookstore Authors series by saying, grab that book off your bookshelf, any book. Tuck yourself into your favorite place where you like to read. Have some good lighting. Grab a beverage, nice cup of tea or an ice cold glass of water. Take your mind, body, and soul to another place through the honored tradition of writing, and that somebody's creativity has put it together in a book for you to learn from them. You will be a better person for it. So thank you again. Tune in next Tuesday night. I'm having a publishing agent that I'm going to be interviewing next week as well. So super duper excited for that. So ladies, God bless all the great work that you do out in your communities, and being brave enough and bold enough to share it out to the world.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.